Hello and welcome back to ProtoMet Reviews, where, after a lengthy break, we are back with our ongoing series, and this time we're covering Star Wars: A New Hope. So let's get talking about it. Alright, so a number of years have passed since Revenge of the Sith. I'll try not to be talking about that too much during this, but know that a rebellion has sprung up. And now a transport ship carrying a princess, Leia Organa, from the planet Alderaan is under attack by one of the Empire's Star Destroyer ships. And then they capture the ship and board it and capture Princess Leia and hold her for questioning. But not before she manages to leave the plans that the Empire are looking for a super weapon called the Death Star with a small droid called R2-D2, who, along with another droid, C-3PO, escape in an escape pod or whatever, and find themselves on the desert planet Tatooine. Haven't been there in a little while. The Empire realizes that they probably sent the plans down in the escape pod and go down to check and discover that their droids are down there. They don't find the droids, they just find out that there were droids, because the two droids end up getting captured by droid sellers and end up being sold to the Lars family, group of family of moisture farmers. One of whom, the nephew of the guy running the place, Luke, while cleaning up the droids, ends up finding a partial message from Princess Leia, asking to deliver a message to one Obi-Wan Kenobi, who he's never heard of. But he has heard of an old Ben Kenobi. Later that night, R2, who has the message and the plans, leaves the moisture farm, and Luke has to wait until the next morning to go after him, despite finding out that the night before, because bad stuff is out at night, I guess. So he goes off with C-3PO to find R2, and they find him, but then are attacked by Tusken Raiders. Luke barely manages to escape when old Ben shows up and scares off the Tusken Raiders. After learning that R2 has a message for an Obi-Wan, old Ben reveals that he is Obi-Wan. So much for the pretext or whatever. Anyway, he takes Luke and the droids back to his place, gives Luke his father's lightsaber, tells him about, hey, your father was a Jedi, he fought in the Clone Wars, he was a pretty awesome dude. But then Darth Vader murdered him. Murderized him. So Luke... Now, prior to this, Luke had expressed a desire to leave Tatooine to forge his own path in life. And after the Jawa droid seller's transport is found in ruins, Luke rushes back to the moisture farm and finds his aunt and uncle dead and the entire place in flames. So he kind of has to go with Obi-Wan at this point, who agrees to teach Luke about the ways of the Force, to train him to be a Jedi or whatever. Well, Obi-Wan and Luke and the droids head to the spaceport Mos Eisley. Now back on the Death Star, which is the big weapon that the plans are for, because the rebels need the plans to destroy the Death Star. Princess Leia has been captured and has been interrogated, but isn't saying a word, like, at all. So they're like, ugh. It's mentioned in an offhand comment that the Senate is basically dissolved at this point. So now, yeah, Palpatine is complete ruler. Just overall, Yeah. Anyway, so back in Mos Eisley, Obi-Wan and Luke meet a pair of smugglers, Han Solo and his Wookiee friend Chewbacca, and they hire Han and Wookiee to transport them to the planet Alderaan to deliver the plans for the Death Star. Han agrees at a price, and there is a bit of an action sequence prior to this where Obi-Wan has to cut a guy's arm off for messing with Luke, because that guy kind of deserved it. Unless you watch the Robot Chicken sketch based on it, then poor guy. Anyway, and there's a scene that's present in the special edition. I know people don't really care for those, but this is probably the only scene that I can recall actually being added in wholesale, and it's where Han. Okay, first, after Obi-Wan and Luke leave because the Imperial stormtroopers are searching for them and their droids. They managed to get past earlier in a pretty nice scene, but Obi-Wan and Luke have to leave the cantina to avoid getting captured. And so then Han has to deal with this bounty hunter, Greedo, who's working for this guy, Jabba the Hutt, because Han has now paid off a debt. And so Han kills Greedo, but then later has to go talk with Jabba and tell him, hey, I'm gonna be getting the money. Just give me a bit more time. I'll get the money back to you as soon as I can. So Jabba, who's a big slug, is like, well, okay, but don't fail me again, or the situation for you is gonna get worse. Well, while maintaining the ship, Obi-Wan and Luke and their droids show up to take off, but some spy guy has informed the stormtroopers, like, hey, these are the guys you're looking for. So the stormtroopers go after them, and they're forced to rush off in Han's ship, the Millennium Falcon, and leave Tatooine. Now, while they're in transport, which they gotta go at beyond light speed to get to Alderaan, the Death Star gets into position, and the general in charge of the place, General Tarkin, decides to give a little display of what the Death Star is capable of, in hopes that will result in Leia telling them where the rebel base is. In an attempt to save Alderaan, which is in the firing range, Leia does tell them it's on this planet called Dantooine. And then the Empire just blows up Alderaan anyway, because they don't care, clearly. It's in a later scene it's revealed that Dantooine was not actually the rebel base, and that Leia had been lying to them. So, yeah. Anyway, after the destruction of Alderaan, Obi-Wan gets a really bad feeling. And when they finally arrive at their destination, they are surprised to be in what they assume to be an asteroid field. Unfortunately, that's what's left of Alderaan. They're soon pulled in by the Death Star, which is massive, and it's not a moon, as Obi-Wan is quick to point out. So they get pulled into the Death Star, but thanks to the fact that the Millennium Falcon is a smuggling ship, they manage to hide under the floorboards while the ship is being searched. And they do this long enough that they're able to get a hold of a couple stormtrooper disguises and actually get into the Death Star facility. Obi-Wan says, "I'll go shut off the tractor beam," after getting its location from R2, who checked through the plans on the ship. And so he goes off, leaving Han, Luke, and the droids in a control room. While Obi-Wan's out, R2 discovers that Leia is aboard the Death Star, and Luke manages to convince Han to go rescue her. So they have to go out to the detention center. There's a quick fight in the entryway of the detention center, and that ends up alerting pretty much the whole facility that problems are going on down there. Now they manage to free Leia, but are forced to retreat into a trash chute, a garbage chute, and wind up in a garbage crusher. And Luke almost gets killed by some creature that's actually living in there. And honestly, as a kid, that scene actually terrified me. But I digress. Yeah, I've seen this when I was a kid. Who hasn't? But anyway. Meanwhile, R2 and C-3PO are still back in that one control room that Obi-Wan told the others to wait in the first place. So they're working. C-3PO kind of sets down his communicator at some point because he and R2 have to hide from stormtroopers who are looking around. And they actually managed to trick the stormtroopers into believing that the intruders had locked them in there, which is a kind of funny scene. But anyway, the trash back at the garbage compactor, the walls begin closing in, and Luke is desperately trying to contact C-3PO to tell him, hey, shut off the trash compactors. Just shut all the trash compactors on the detention level. And R2 manages to do it, but C-3PO thinks, oh no, we killed them, because all he hears over the radio at this point is them cheering, which he assumes is their death throes. But no, he manages to stop. The droids manage to stop the trash compactor and get them out of there. And then at this point, Han and Chewie split off from Luke and Leia to go separate paths and hope to meet back up near the Millennium Falcon. Bunch of fight ensues. While this is all going on, Obi-Wan has managed to sneak around the facility, shut off the tractor beam. But while doing that, his mere presence has alerted Darth Vader to his presence. And so the two actually wind up facing off. Bunch of nice action sequences with the other group running from stormtroopers and trying to get back to the Falcon, which they do. And a pretty awesome fight between Obi-Wan and Darth Vader. And when Obi-Wan sees that Luke and the others are safe and near the Millennium Falcon, he decides, it's time for me to be done. And he just lets himself get killed. But he lives on as a spirit. Sticking with Luke, telling him, run, go. They manage to get out of the Death Star in the Millennium Falcon and shoot off to the other rebel base. Unbeknownst to them, they are being tracked by the Empire, who have like a tracking beacon in there. So the Death Star goes after the Millennium Falcon. The Millennium Falcon arrives on one of the fourth moon of Yavin, or Yavin 4 hereafter, where the plans R2 had been holding are finally given to the Rebel Alliance, and they use that to study the layout of the Death Star and find its one weak spot, which is a tiny thermal exhaust port in a trench that they could totally destroy with a bomb if it's fired in such a way. So with the Death Star looming, with the Death Star in orbit of Yavin, it starts to orbit towards Yavin 4, trying to get it into firing range, while the rebels send out several squadrons of small fighters to attack the Death Star, hoping in the hopes of destroying it with pulsar bomb. I don't know what kind of bombs they were. They were bombs. Dogfighting on the surface stuff. At one point, Han just gets his reward and is like, you know what? I'm out of here. See ya. Luke is one of the guys fighting in the dogfights around the Death Star, and a lot of rebel guys get killed off. And Darth Vader, who's been kind of monitoring the situation, is like, you know what? I'm gonna go out there. I'm going to stop these. I'm gonna stop these rebels myself. So he goes out with a couple of TIE fighters. Big action stuff going on. It's awesome. It winds up that Luke is the last one capable of even pulling off this grand bombing, because one guy tried it and missed, and that did not go well for him. But despite being fired on, Luke is saved at the last minute by the Millennium Falcon, because Han had to change of heart and decide, hey, I gotta help these guys. Han, love you, guy. So then he manages to shoot down one of the couple of the TIE fighters and force Darth Vader's TIE fighter to go tumbling off into space. And Luke, using the power of the Force, perceives when to fire the bombs. He does so. They make it, flies off, and just before the Death Star can fire its weapon to destroy Yavin 4, the entire space station blows up in a fantastic explosion. It's pretty awesome. There's much celebration. An awards ceremony is held at the end, and the film comes to a close. And honestly, rewatching this film after so many years, I can honestly say I did feel far more excited rewatching this film than I did watching the original prequels. So I can kind of see why some people don't really care for the prequel trilogy compared to the original trilogy. Because, like I said, I did have a lot more excitement watching this than I did for the prequels. I'd strongly recommend checking this out if you haven't already. And if you have, check it out again. It's a pretty darn good film. Very, very influential. The effects are pretty darn good. Even the special edition effects. It's all good. Strongly recommend it. This is me, ProtoMet, signing out.